Hey, everybody. Welcome to Couch Dimension, our video games podcast, where a lawyer, software engineer, and gamer come together in an ethereal world of living room furniture to talk about games and gaming news. I'm America's most tired lawyer, Tiny Big Dude, joined as always by my co-host,
Captain.
Captain, introduce yourself.
Got ahead of you. Captain, making sure that Tiny is the most tired lawyer.
Yeah, with Red not being here, the we're just thrown off. We just don't know what to do. So, of course, we do have the great returning guest, Grumpy Manticore, here to ease our pain. Grumpy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. But of course, as you are now, of course, incredibly tired, I just wanted you to know I did throw up under the couch, and it's just out of reach to where you're gonna have to get down there and get real awkward when you clean up that hairball later. Sorry,
Oh, God damn it.
Sorry.
Hey, Tiny.
Yeah.
Not it.
Damn it. I already have to clean up. I have a cat that likes to puke in the most inconvenient places. I swear to God, she goes out of her way to puke in places that are inconvenient. She puked on my partner's phone charger. You know how hard it is to clean cat puke off of a phone charger?
I do.
Well, we've got a great show for you today. It's Chill Dimension. That's right. It's the end of the month. So we're going to be taking it easy, talking about some lower key subjects, less direct news, and more just kind of general vibes. And of course, we're going to be talking about Game of the Month and talking about next month's Game of the Month. So to start us off with what we've been playing recently, Captain, you want to tell us some more about Elden Ring Seamless Co-op?
Yeah, so I was talking about a little the pre-show, actually. I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring. Basically, over the past few weeks, I've may as well have had at least 3 simultaneous characters going. One is the main one where we're basically doing a full playthrough. Other 2 are for other friends when they join, of like, they're at different skill levels and just messing around different stuff, but it's so much fun. It's glitchy. We were fighting a boss called the Fire Giant, and when we would fail the fight on the initial attempt, the best we can summarize is that I think there are 2 different boss models. Right, and that when you shift to phase 2, it pulls one up from, I think they're being stored under the map. They get pulled up for phase 2. And the way it was going down is that I think the phase 2 model was active under the map because we kept having random explosions and fires show up in the first phase of the fight. It's buggy.
I played one evening with you guys and quickly determined that it is not for me because Elden Ring Seamless Co-op is cool and fun, but it will require a full reset of everyone like every 10 minutes.
I do want you to give it another try. I think we were having some specific issues in regards to that version of the mod. Like, disconnects will happen. But the other thing is, it depends on the connections of everyone involved. We've had much more stable sessions than that. That was actually one of the most unstable sessions we've ever had. So, disconnects are going to happen. Weird issues are going to happen. But having full resets from everyone every about 10 minutes, that is not normal for that mod. So.
Okay, because I played with you guys for about an hour, and I think we reset 3 different times.
If anything, sometimes you'll have disconnects, but you won't have everyone disconnect.
God.
And yeah, it doesn't always kick you all the way out where you need to restart your game.
Now, Manticore, I understand that you have also been playing Elden Ring.
I have. Yeah, I'm playing almost the exact opposite version. Nobody at all. Trying not even to use ashes.
Okay.
I'm doing this The idea of the playthrough I'm on right now is collect every item that you possibly can in a fairly linear, constrained approach. I'm doing the big bonk build. It's a lot of fun, but it is also magic's easy in my opinion. I'm not as good at the dodging and then all the stuff for the big bonks and no armor.
See, what a
That's a lot of
friend and I
fun.
did.
So wait. As someone who is admittedly less into Elden Ring than I should be, what all does the big bonk build consist of? Is that like heavy armor, big hammer?
I do no armor, and
Oh,
yeah, biggest weapons you can carry. Sometimes two
hell
of
yeah.
them. I haven't gotten to two of them yet in this character.
So I assume that still keeps your like dodge speed maxed out, and then maximizes your glass cannon.
Yeah, to a degree. To a degree. You could still you still probably want enough vigor to make sure that you don't get one shot by a passing dragonfly, but
I hate those things.
I do too.
They
But
oh, go ahead.
I would say it's a lot of fun to learn how to play that way, and it kind of gets you out of that. Here, I've got a shield. Let me hold it up and block everything mindset. I've not tried it on the DLC though, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I didn't realize I need to go back and play those games. Sans shields, because I watched that H Bomber guy whole breakdown of Dark Souls and shields and why they're bad,
It's
and I'm like, oh, maybe I should actually try to play the game the way God intended.
it's a good time without shields. What I did on my first playthrough for a good deal of it. I did have a shield for some. Actually, I guess it was more DLC. Michael, Q, the Wizard Blue, had recommended like instead of swapping between my sword and my staff in my right hand, just move the staff to my left hand, get rid of the shield.
Yeah,
And so that's a fun way to play it.
yeah.
It
That is.
oh, go ahead.
I would say that is the way to do it if you're playing a spellcaster, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just constantly swapping between your sword and your staff.
In the seamless co-op playthrough, my main character is I was trying to go for faith and strength, but I'm having trouble with the stat allocation to have the paladin fantasy be fulfilled because it takes so much faith, intelligence for depending on what you're doing. Some faith in some incantations still require it. Faith, sometimes intelligence, strength, endurance, vigor, and mind. My stat allocation is fucked.
Yup. I think
Because
that has
I
been one
want
of
to.
my.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, finish your thought.
I was just gonna say I want to have like big armor, big shield, big weapon, or at the very least, I keep using a Morning Star, and change out that shield occasionally to cast incantations. But I've had to. So far, I'm at heavy armor, but not the biggest. Big shield, a Morning Star, incantations, which is fine. Like, I can go without having the biggest of bonks. And I just want to be able to have my Crucible Knight armor when I get there. It's
absolutely.
so cool looking.
I've wanted to do the Diablo style Crusader where you've got like a flail and then all of the other stuff that you're talking about, so then add dex into that.
Oh, okay.
Agility.
God.
It's just like, okay, you're never going to make that character, and well, I guess you are, but it's going to cost 8
Yeah,
billion
I'm getting there,
rupees.
but it's taking a while.
It is interesting to kind of, they're like, this is how we want you to play the game, just by the resources that we're giving you at this point. And you do kind of have to realize, okay, I can't do this exactly the way I envisioned it yet.
But that's okay. Like, that's part of the
And
fun
that's
of
okay.
it for me is, like, making the decision making and choosing to do one thing over the others. Like that's part of the process for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I do wish there were more larval tiers. Just because I've made a bunch of characters. I'm like, I enjoyed this dude, but I'd like to try something different, and there aren't that many respecs in the game. I don't know if you've run into that yet, but
I've never run into the respec wall. Between base game and main game, I always have a surplus, or I tend to.
yeah. Very good.
But that
I
does
didn't
suck.
realize they were limited. Like, so limited by like item.
Yeah, there are only
think
so
there's, like,
many of
20.
the item you need.
Ah. Speaking of praising the sun and faith builds, I was behind a church bus today, and their program name was Sun Seekers, SON Seekers, and I just it's not really important to Dark Souls or Elden Ring, but I just wanted to throw that out here. Just I wonder what you think about that name for a little bit. Just stew on Sun Seekers.
Just looking
This is
for
reason.
some fresh suns to hang out with. This can't go well. This can't end well.
Just the most masculine heterosexual name they could think of. Anyways.
Oh yeah, I was gonna hand it off to you, actually.
Yeah, well, I was about to take it from you, so you didn't even have to try. Sunseekers was my segue, you see. Not in any meaningful sense. Nothing I'm going to say has anything to do with that. You can forget
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know how
I
this
will put
segue
a picture on Twitter if you want to see the bus. So, I want to talk about, actually, what do you want to hear about? Do you want to hear about CRPGs or military tax shooters?
Thing is, I'd say it's a relaxed day. I say go for it.
I mean, I'm not going to do both because we've got plenty of other stuff to get through. Plus, I want to save one for later.
Okay, but man, I want to hear about both pretty bad. You know what, Manticore? I think you're the guest.
Well, since Manticore is the guest and my DM, I'll go with
I was
CRPGs.
about to say, I think I know if you solved that, actually.
And I will talk about my experience with Baldur's Gate 3. So I'm doing a Baldur's Gate 3 run. I played like most of Act 1 solo when it came out. And then I just, ADHD brain got distracted, as I often do. But now I've got a group of buddies that are playing through it with me, and we're meeting once a week to do it. And we're all in parts of the game. We're in Act 2. We are past the point that any of us actually know what's going to happen. And it has just been a ton of fun, especially to play with people who don't really know D&D and how D&D functions, because their conceptions of things like Thunderwave are I've been knocked off the edge 3 times by my team. But it's been great. I really love the way that, I have to play through it solo so that I can actually catch the story of all the main characters. But the way that you kind of make your own stories when you're playing with a group like that is really cool. For example, there's one part in the game where you're at an inn and the inn gets attacked. And I'll try to keep this vague so it's spoiler free.
Sure.
After you kill the person attacking you, there's what I'm guessing is a bug, and that if you go to loot his body, it counts as stealing. So I didn't know that. I'm thinking dead guy, gonna loot the dead guy. The entire inn, which is like 15 people, turn to fight us. And we all have to pull out various magical stops in order to mount a retreat and get away so they'll stop aggroing. In the process of doing that, the only people that came to our aid were 2 oxen in the stable outside, which were mercilessly murdered by the people inside the inn. So we vowed then and there, we were like, no, we're coming back and we're going to murder every single one of these people because they killed the ox. So we return to Ian. Once you get out of combat, when you come back, everybody's chill. They're like, okay, I guess I'll forgive you for stealing and running away. So our team leader put out a very a wide variety of explosive barrels and played a song on his lute to get everyone to gather around. And we laid waste to that entire settlement.
Damn.
And so, yeah, like
the
story that you're supposed to be getting, which that story, like what we chose to do, actually does work in quite well with what Dark Urge asks you to do. And my character is doing Dark Urge, so it's dovetailed. But the story that we're able to create with the four of us, sort of emergent, is a lot of fun, even if it isn't quite as handcrafted, let's say, as the one you're supposed to be playing.
Now, I'm curious. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you
go. I was curious when you, since you're all in Act 2, you don't know what happens. How well is the story being conveyed to y'all? Because I love Divinity Original Sin 2. When you're playing with a group and the group is not doing a great job of sticking together, the story gets super fragmented.
Yeah, so that was my biggest concern with doing a group play of Baldur's Gate 3, because I have run into that same problem in Divinity, where, like, you know, everyone goes and talks to a different townsperson, and then no one has the full picture of what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, it definitely helps if you keep the group together, but good
luck.
Well,
Baldur's Gate has this great function where if one of your party members is in conversation, you can click the little ear thing, and then you can view that conversation.
I actually believe Divinity has the same feature. I think we had groups that ignored it.
But, and then also having, you know, your guy with your highest charisma, your party leader, being the guy that's doing a lot of the talking, most of the talking helps. It goes a long way to keep everyone on the same page. So we actually haven't had that problem so much. It's been really smooth from that perspective.
Kind of related to that. So I just haven't done a group run of Baldur's Gate. I also fell off after Act 1 in a similar way to you. Are you all getting to play as Tav or Dark Urge in your own version of that? Or like one of you Tav and the other one's got to be Karlach or whomever?
Yeah, so it will let you do, you know, we're all custom characters.
Gotcha.
So I joined the group a little bit after they started. The guy that they started with, he just wasn't cut out for D&D, right? So they reached out to me, and I'm like, yeah, I can do a Baldur's Gate 3 run, because like this guy was getting bored in combat, and like, you don't know when you play your real D&D and it's like 40 minutes between turns, you learn something that PC gamers will never understand, and that is the value of patience and paying attention. So I stepped in as sort of a ringer and took over his role. So I'm not sure, but I think you can only have one Dark Urge per party.
Oh,
that makes sense. That's kind of where I was getting to. Is like, I know Dark Urge is kind of specific.
Yeah.
Without any spoilers.
And we're playing it to where, like, we're a very supportive group. We're a very supportive party and supportive of one another in our goals. So when the Dark Urge tells me to wipe out an entire settlement, my boys have my back. You know, it's not one where we're having to like play against each other's interests.
I think the most interesting Dark Urges are the ones that you play against Dark Urge. I haven't gotten, again, I only played through Act 1, so I'm vaguely aware of what happens beyond that.
So yeah, I actually, because there are options where you're like trying to resist the Dark Urge, and like you feel bad about doing all the murder. I haven't been doing those, but I am interested in what that story actually looks like. Like, does it compel you to attack?
I don't want to put any spoilers, so I'm not going to say anything more about what I know.
Fair
I
enough.
think I know, but we'll just let you find out. I'm curious. So did you just occupy the character that the other person was using?
Yeah, because it won't let you make a new custom, so I wasn't able to make like the appearance and the race. But I took over his Githyanki character and respect them from fighter to barbarian because and a Grumpy, you would know. I just think that barbarian is overall more fun and easier to play than fighter, and like rage is just much
It's a
better
lot
than
of
like
fun.
getting a second attack, and also you get a second attack anyway.
Yeah, especially the way Baldur's Gate handles action economy. I don't know, dude. 6, 7, no, wait, 20th level fighters get 4 attacks. And also, is that interesting? Do you really want to do that?
Right.
I definitely think Barbarian's the way to go.
And Wild Magic Barbarian has been a lot of fun too, because you just get a random bonus of one type or another to every time you pop a rage. So like if I pop it, I might get lucky, and everyone on my team gets teleport. Now, I think that Wild Magic in D&D proper gets a little bit crazier, and I kind of wish they would have gone with that, because you seldom end up with something like the most disadvantage you'll get from Wild Magic is like, thorns appear in a 10-foot radius around you, making it difficult terrain, and that can be kind of annoying for your teammates. But you're never like exploding into a fireball or anything like that.
I hadn't paid attention to what Wild Magic Sorcerer, the proper Wild Magic has a lot of spellcasting thing can do in Baldur's Gate. But Wild Soul Barbarian in 5e is pretty tame. Like the rage abilities are all relatively useful, and you get some cool things in the 5e version of like restoring spell slots, if I remember correctly. So it's a nice cool one for a group like that.
Okay, well, it seems like they've adapted it well then,
broken.
because that's also the restoring spell slots is something that made the transition to Baldur's Gate. I do find that really interesting, though, where in the CRPG they choose to take, what elements they take from 5e and what stuff they left on the table and what stuff they modified.
I did
definitely a learning curve.
I did a quick check for you. It on future playthroughs if you want. There are mods that make Wild Magic
wilder.
Yeah,
that's fun.
So just wanted you to know that exists.
But we can move on here in a second. But just to that last point, I think it's interesting to call out that the way that attacks of opportunity work in D&D. If a friendly is threatening the enemy does not get an opportunity attack. That is not true in Baldur's Gate, and I don't know why the fuck they changed that, because it makes positioning and moving tactically much harder.
I've had groups just playing D&D in real life that didn't use that particular rule, like they used the Baldur's Gate style rule for opportunity attacks. I hate it, but it does tend to lead to very static fights, in my opinion.
Interesting. I didn't realize that that's like a thing that other people will do.
I don't know that it's right. It's been a while since I've read the actual 5e rule book, like 7 years.
And then my other pet peeve is that they changed sneak attack, where sneak attack in 5e, if a friendly is standing within 5 feet of the person, you can get sneak attack on them, which makes it much easier for your thieves. We have a thief playing with us. His name is Barnaby LaFrance. He is the world's worst thief, unfortunately, because he fails all of his lockpick checks. But he's a new player. He doesn't quite fully grasp how to get his sneak attack to proc. And if the 5e rules were fully in place, it would not be that hard for him. But
yeah, I don't know how.
I had one.
I have other thoughts.
Question.
Oh, what are those thoughts, Manticore? before Captain?
Oh, no. I have other thoughts, but I think they would just be a long ramble, so let's move on.
I purely just wanted to ask: has picking up someone else's character made it difficult for you to connect to the character? Are you trying to roleplay much, or you know?
It was a pretty easy character to get into because his whole thing is murder and bloodlust, and so
Okay, yeah,
it's not hard to fit that role. You know, it's pretty two-dimensional character, but still a lot of fun.
I do think it's one of the benefits of that character being Dark Urge as opposed to just being like a random generic.
Yes, if he was just a guy, it would not work as well at all.
Before we change topics, may I drop in purely a 1 minute, if not 30-second recommendation?
Go for it.
Saw Deadpool and Wolverine. Really fun movie. I really think if you are or have been a superhero movie fan, and this goes back pretty far, you should go watch that movie. Know as little as possible going in. It's a really fucking fun time.
Now, Captain, you just pissed me off a little bit. This is a video games podcast. And when I bring up Sunseekers, it's 100% on topic. And this is movies.
I know, you're right. You're right.
No, but
if I may, I do have one question. I didn't see Deadpool 2. How much am I going to be lost? I don't know.
No, you're good.
Okay, because I also didn't see Deadpool 2.
You should. Okay, Deadpool 2 is really fun as well, but all you need to know is that time travel was involved, and they reference it at the end of the movie. Deadpool uses Cable's time travel machine to do a bunch of really funny bullshit, but it's actually not all that important to this movie. Just they reference that, but that's fine.
No, the point of this movie.
Huh?
The point of this movie is really just Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman's love affair. Like,
yeah, that's the thing, is that, like, I honestly don't give a shit about superheroes. Like, I don't know. I just stopped caring a long time ago. But I love those two men, and they love each other. And that's what I want to go see.
Well, you'll get that, and a lot of not loving each other along the way. Also,
part of the love, though.
I'm going to tell you this. You might care about some superheroes in this one.
Okay.
There's some faces that you haven't seen in a minute.
Interesting. And it's Robert Downey.
And now,
Dr. Doom.
No. I'm actually excited for that. That's a fun thing. I'm all on board with that, but that's not at all.
I just think it's kind of funny that Disney's like panicking. They're like, "Oh my god, what do we do with the MCU to make people give a shit?" They're like, Robert Downey Jr. again?
Okay, to be fair, I don't think it's that they're panicking because of that. I think they're panicking largely because the main villain they've been building up just got jettisoned because he assaulted his girlfriend.
Yeah, Jonathan Majors got.
I think that's the problem.
He was a piece of shit.
But now we get Robert Downey Jr.'s Dr. Doom, and we get the Russo brothers making the Avengers movies again, because they almost weren't, and they're the ones who like made Captain America 2. They made.
Michael Q just said the main villain turned out to be a method actor.
But yeah, they made Captain America 2. They made Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. They used to write for Community. Like, they're great. I'm glad they're back on board. So I'm excited. But yeah, it didn't mean for it to take this long. Just wanted to say, high recommend. Had a blast. Laughed my ass off. Such a fun movie.
Cool. All right. Well, let's move it along out of what we've been playing and into our discussion of Game of the Month. I think this month's Game of the Month discussion is going to be a little shorter than what we've had in the past, just because our Game of the Month was Frostpunk, and it doesn't quite have the same, like, you know, with Solar Ash, we talked about the story, we talked about all the various gameplay elements. There's not, I mean, Frostpunk's really cool, but there's not as much deep lore to get into.
Oh man, I disagree. I have like one of the most important questions to ask about Frostpunk later. Later, we'll get to that.
Okay, I'm excited.
I can't believe they made a whole game about how much it sucks to be British.
I had a feeling when I was playing it because I went back and so just so everyone knows kind of where we're at on it. Captain, you made several attempts.
I made
You
many
couldn't crack
attempts.
it, right?
I'm having fun with it. It's what it is sometimes is instead of abandoning a run, sometimes I'll reload to like a save I made much earlier, but still wasn't early enough to stop the the problem. And things will cascade and it's fuck. I still haven't reached the end of the Brexit arc, but I hate them. Fuck you.
Oh yeah, the Londoners, they suck. Manticore, have you ever played Frostpunk, or have you ever played any similar city builder?
I played a lot of the similar city builders. I also, when you told me you guys were talking about Frostpunk, I got it, and I played.
Oh hell yeah!
I think I've gotten, from what Captain was talking about in the pre-show, I think I've gotten just a hair past him. So I've had like the Londoners have. I've reduced them down to I think like 3 people left.
Nice,
nice. Mine have not left yet.
Well, I
think the last thing I didn't do was go to Tesla City in the initial scenario.
Let me make both of you jealous by saying that I picked it up and played for 3 hours and beat it.
Damn.
Now that's easy to do when you've also previously played it and beat it, but it was a couple years ago. But when you know what's coming, right? You know the big story beats. It's easy to navigate.
Yeah.
So you can never. That's really my big problem with this game is that the replay value is low.
Welcome to being an Outer Wilds fan.
Yeah, it's a puzzle, and once you solve the puzzle, you know how to solve the puzzle. But let's talk briefly about story and setting just before we get into all the gameplay stuff.
I just wanted to ask before we move on. Have you played the DLC? Because I did buy them.
No, I haven't bought the DLC just because the second one's coming out, and I'm like, I'm just gonna jump right
into it. Yeah, that's
fair. So for story and setting, it's post-apocalyptic. Takes place in like the 1800s, alternate dimension. I'm pretty sure. The world is freezing over, and you are in charge of a few folks from jolly old England. Shout out to our UK listeners. I know you're loving this.
Oi, governor!
Oh, no.
I know, I went Australian there for a second.
You managed to offend everybody.
So
I could do a lot more.
The game kind of centers around this one giant generator that is keeping everyone warm. And you don't fuck that up. Keep that thing fed and upgrade it as it gets colder and colder, and you're navigating this group of survivors through the apocalypse. Now it's got excellent vibes. I love the frozen wasteland look, and when I initially played this game, it was in the middle of winter, and it was perfect for that.
Tiny says I attack the British too much, and then he says that it has excellent vibes watching the British die.
Well, my British people lived, so
I was about to say the point is for them not to die.
So, that's story and setting out of the way. Let's get into gameplay. One of the reasons I like this game is that I feel it's one of the more accessible city builders. There are 3 resources to keep track of, and your area of play is purposefully limited, so you're not having to worry about huge expansion. What did you guys think about that? And how were your experiences with it?
So it's kind of interesting that you call this a city builder, because I guess technically it is. I wouldn't consider this a city builder. This is a base builder, and the difference is subtle. But I think the big difference is that thing you just said of how many resources are you actually managing?
Right.
You've got, I make the argument there's probably 5 resources in this game.
And no, prosthetics becomes one if you go that route.
Yeah. So you've got coal, steel, wood, and technology cores, right?
And
Yeah.
food, yeah.
And food. Yeah, I forgot about food.
But
I don't know
yeah,
how. Went down the road prosthetics. No idea how to make them.
you got to get a factory. It's like I bet you didn't quite get there if you were
Yeah, I
right
didn't
behind
get there.
me. I got it like right as the Londoners were trying to leave.
Yeah. So pro tip. I'll give these out as we go, as you guys tell me
Yeah.
what hiccups you encountered. Pro tip: build at the start 2 research facilities.
Yep.
Oh.
Then at the end of the game, you should have 4. Is
Yeah.
my opinion.
I had no idea that you could double up.
You
Oh man, there's a
assign more
tooltip at
engineers.
everything, man.
Yeah, but I wasn't reading my tooltips. I was a clown.
Wow, idiot didn't read his tooltips. That's how you freeze to death.
No, I did a few times.
If it wouldn't be too much of a spoiler, I kind of don't want to know this, but I also kind of do. What's the lowest temperature it can get to?
Oh God, I can't quite remember off the top of my head, but it's somewhere around -100.
Okay, I got pretty close to that then. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I kept wondering if it was going to get lower. I was like, dude, I don't know how I'm going to keep you guys anything. That was one of the things that I screwed up on.
The game is about should I give away the length? You guys, I don't want to spoil if
I mean, you said you played it for 3 hours and beat it, so.
Yeah, but that's probably him playing on triple speed the entire time.
Yes, a lot of that is triple speed. But I mean, as far as number of days goes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, you know what? I'll put it more vaguely. You hit a certain point in Frostpunk where the point is not to function. The point is to withstand.
Oh God.
So that is sort of the final challenge that the game is going to throw at you is, hey, buddy, take what resources you've got, what infrastructure you've got. You are not really going to be able to manage much outside of your coal production and use. And just fucking go and make it.
Yeah.
And so that is that final stretch gets pretty tough.
Yeah, I had a feeling that's where it's going. That's where I kind of get into it's a base builder as opposed to a city builder, because RimWorld does that. Factorio does that, where you get to a point where it's your goal is the final thing. Get off the world in both those cases. And monsters are going to come at you. It's going to be rough, maybe. Depends on what difficulties you're playing at.
I played through Factorio on normal. I'm so excited. Shout out to Factorio. Gets a basically 2.0 upgrade or update in October.
Interesting.
Yep, they're gonna add space gameplay.
Oh man, don't have to do mods for that anymore. I primarily played RimWorld, which is
I gotta play more of it. So we should
different vibes to this, but not too different.
But we should
RimWorld's been on the wish list. I almost pulled the trigger on it this week, but I got a lot going on, so I'm like, unnecessary $30. But I'm gonna get it at some point. It's gonna eat my life. I know it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is presently what I think is the top tier simulation base builder. Either that or you get Dwarf Fortress.
I don't want to get. I was gonna say I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but I'm about to jump in the weeds because I need to ask: when you're starting the game, like you've got limited amounts of people, how do you allocate? How do y'all end up like harvesting resources and doing all that? Because
wood is your number one biggest ally. We're talking about Frostpunk again. Just for those keep it up. You need to prioritize wood because wood is how you're going to get tents, and off the bat, tents and medical centers are going to be your biggest things. Because once you have everyone housed and you've got enough medical room for them, then you can start moving to other things.
Okay.
And coal. I should not. Coal is always going to be a thing. that you're going to need.
Because the winning, or not winning, but the better save, my current save, is one where I tend to start out and go ahead and put 2 groups of 15 on coal. Just go ahead and get that coal up as quickly as I can.
Uh-huh.
And then I was trying to actually go to resources that were further out from the middle because I know it's going to get cold later. So if I go ahead and get the stuff on the edges or focus on that, then if I need anything when it's getting colder, maybe it'll be better.
Michael Q says, coal is something you're always going to need. Climate change denier Tiny.
I mean,
in the
okay.
Frostpunk universe, they could benefit from some greenhouse gases.
Well, but it's heavily implied that the industrialization is also what caused the whole thing. So,
Yeah.
My thing have done something similar, and then what I did on my most recent playthrough was instead of even sending 15 people out to mine a resource, you build those resource.
Yep.
I forgot what the actual things are called.
Resource depots.
Yeah, I was getting to that, but it takes.
Nah, you just start off with them because they are just so much more efficient.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I didn't know they were more efficient.
Start off with that, and then also that solves your cold problem. Because
Yep.
if the
Fuck, I didn't think of that.
Wrong word for it. Resource depots increases your stockpile, but it's the like the gathering hub.
Yeah.
And that is heated, insulated building, so that solves that problem a little bit. Then you're going to need those for later. How did you guys manage your coal? Because I forgot how much of a pain in the ass it is. I ended the game with 3 coal thumpers and 2 steam coal mines.
Yeah, I had, I think, 3 coal mines and 2. I was building my second coal thumper the last, like when I stopped for that last game.
I hate with the coal thumper. Coal thumper becomes an issue. Like, I was trying to figure out what's the difference between the mine and the thumper. Like, why would I go from one over the other? And then it clicked. Thumper's going to produce more, but also you're going to need like double the men on that. But
oh yeah, even more than that, because the thumper produces those coal piles, and it is really, really hard to keep up with its output.
So what I would do is, as soon as I could get scouts out there, I would try to get them to the bridge so I could get my robot back and have it harvest a lot of the coal for me.
Yes, automatons are great for that.
Yeah, because then, like, when it's in the colder periods, fuck it, they can handle that. Do you go for what's more important, like the I can't remember their name. The furnaces that you can put around, I think it's steam core or something like that.
Yeah.
The steam hubs.
Or do you go for that or heaters or both?
Both.
Yeah,
Okay.
you gotta do both.
That's the only tech tree that, we talked a little bit about beforehand. A lot of the tech trees in that game, a lot of it is meant for if you are going to specialize in something. Like the automatons, for example. You can play that game without automatons and be fine. Or you can start producing them.
Okay.
But if you want to produce them, you need to know what tree you're going down, and you need to get on it right away. Additionally, that's similar to the outpost that you can create. Those are extremely valuable. They will get cut off at a certain point in the game. But if you want to use them, you need to get to it pretty quick.
So this is, it sounds like part of the approach is, because sometimes I was going for a more even-handed one. It sounds like, no, specialize. You need to specialize.
Yeah, specializing is important. I kind of specialized in people, in my population. And the way that I did that is house upgrades, heater upgrades, and every single group of survivors that came to me, I took them in.
Yeah.
I also made sure that child labor was enacted. So then I've got my coal thumpers going. I got the children working at the coal gathering hubs.
See, I wasn't putting them to work. I was instead trying to have them basically help out in the medical centers.
Yeah. That's a great use of them too. And that's kind of, I do like the way that the game works in that regard, where it's like everything is a resource, kind of.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
how you're going to use those. Speaking of which, let's talk a little bit about the policies. How draconian did you get?
I tend not to get too draconian, but I'm resisting it.
I did the religion side of the things.
See, I was going to ask, because I always go for order.
Really?
I kept going order, yeah.
Huh. Because I would figure if you were going not as draconian, you would go with religion. Because I did religion my first playthrough, and then this playthrough, I was curious about what the other side of that coin looks like, so I went with order.
Well, I didn't. It was technically it's supposed to be reason and order. A lot more order than expected.
Oh yeah, you're full authoritarian, baby.
I mean,
Because-
the religious side is still also pretty authoritarian.
Because I
religion.
figured,
either way, you're gonna sacrifices must be made. Civil rights are not doing great in the post.
because I kind of approached it as, well, I was kind of role playing as if I'm in this scenario, then I'm not sure if we need to. It's not to say that spiritualism or anything isn't important, but we might need some. We might need to lean on reason
to be
for
a
this.
sun seeker right now.
Might not be the time to start up a cult in the cold.
Colt.
Yes. So I need to take a look at that side though. This game has a lot of replayability.
So
I want to ask, is there anything you would say is a bad policy to pick, or do you think they're all equally valid? You just know
there are two policies that I think are invaluable that I think you need. Double the capacity of your medical centers.
Yeah, I haven't had that one yet.
Soup.
I didn't.
You need to be able to serve some fucking soup.
See, I was doing okay with food for a while, or I ran into issues, and then the bottlenecks got fixed a lot of the time with the hot houses.
Yeah. And if you invest in hot houses, that's a great way to go. I did almost entirely hunters, upgraded them at a certain point. I think I eventually built one hot house, but the soup upgrade doubles your rations. So it makes it to where you can stretch that resource a lot further.
The thing that does worry me, because like with hot houses and stuff, do you start running into space issues?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, you run into space issues, and the problem with the hot house, too, is it takes a technology core to build.
Yeah, it does. So
then you start running into that problem, too. Speaking of problems and hiccups and bottlenecks, what were you guys' most prominent bottlenecks that you hit, and how did you solve them?
So going into this, and I think this is probably a universal-ish experience. That first cold snap is not it's pretty much a couple of days in, right?
Yeah.
You probably don't have time to set up everything if you don't know what you're doing. So like half my population got their freaking limbs chopped off in the first playthrough. It was a very easy fix. I figured out like, oh, okay, I see how the order of operations here. But heating specifically, when we started getting close to that negative 100 Celsius area and figuring out how to use the steam hubs in a way that didn't just drain every ounce of coal that I had, was the one spot that kind of tripped me up at that last playthrough that kind of failed.
Yeah, Captain, what was your biggest resource bottleneck, and how did you overcome?
I'm going to tell you, I overcame by starting over. On one playthrough, hope was so high, and descent was so low, and then you get that first big event of like, hope just takes a massive hit.
When the Londoners form, and because you find out that one of the other settlements has fallen, and hope just drastically goes down. No, that's a gut punch, because you think I am doing really well, and then that happens.
And then it fucking, like, it had been a problem for a while, because then, like, any promises that you've got in the works, things like that. Then I think some cold snaps happen. Like, you start getting hit with a lot at once. And that final time, that current playthrough, I managed. I'm not through the Londonier part. It's just hope had hit 0. Like every time, I'm fighting against the clock to get to 15%. And this last time, I finally managed it. But one of those times, it was really rough because I'm trying my damnedest to get hope up, and it's constantly going down because about every few seconds, it's another one of your citizens has died. Another one of your citizens has died. And every time one dies, the hope goes down. And so I'm just suffering, trying to stem the tide. And there's no, I can't. I'm being buried under these bodies. It was frustrating, but like really, it's funny looking back. I had a good time with it.
I will give a couple of pieces of advice for you for any future playthroughs, and then we'll move on to Grumpy here has actually prepared a really cool segment for us. So I'm excited to get to that. But my closing tips for you.
Food has been a bottleneck before too.
Make sure that you have about 4 times as many medical centers than your current amount of sick people. Because you need to build that surge capacity. So when people start getting sick, you don't face, because what's happening to you is you're facing societal collapse. Because as people get sick, then all of your other supporting structures start shutting down. And that means more people are getting cold, more people are getting sick, and your healthcare infrastructure is getting completely overwhelmed. We've never been through anything like that in real life.
No, never. Have you, I learned, because for a while I was like, is districting matter? And it turns out a little bit. With Order, like, oh yeah, it raises hope if you have the watchtowers in the neighborhoods. Which luckily I always tended to crowd those together, but it was still a little more scattered than I would have liked.
So my resource bottleneck that I hit was housing, because I was taking in everyone. So we
housing
just got a big group of refugees in, and luckily the scouts that came with them brought some supplies, and I paused the timer and I built a whole neighborhood with a steam hub, a coal thumper, houses, watchtower, everything, and they built it overnight.
Nice.
And so I always do that where if I'm building an outcropping, especially with a steam hub, I'm thinking, is this industrial? Is this residential? And kind of going from there.
I tend to be too ADHD sometimes, and that pause button is your friend. Additionally, sometimes I keep my scouts are waiting too long. It's like, no, I need to keep them going.
It is hard to remember sometimes that, hey, I got to get my scouts going on.
You've got different things you got to manage, and it can be a lot.
Yeah, pause button is your friend.
What do you tend to do for food?
I did a bunch of hunters' huts, which were not ideal. They don't give the most food, but they were cheap and they didn't take a lot of technology. And I was investing in people as my specification, right? So I have 1 million workers to throw at everything, and honestly, I need something to keep them busy.
It's a few more bodies on the pile.
And then, so my final tip to you is manage your labor. Sometimes you will end up in a situation where you have a surplus of one good. Go shut that factory down. Put those guys somewhere else for now. And just be sure you're moving people around as needed.
I try to do that. I did want to ask, cemetery or snow pit? I tend to go for the pit because I can get organs later.
I did not realize that. I did cemetery, and I just didn't. I never had. It doesn't grow out of that at all.
Yep.
Well, I didn't do ceremonial burial, so maybe it does if you do that.
Yeah, bodies are resources. If you just keep them out in the snow and not bury them, then I just put them at the edge of my because it needs to be cold wherever they are.
Flashback to the part of the conversation where Captain said he did not play this as an authoritarian. You're going full authoritarian cannibal cult.
No, we didn't eat them. It was just they have everyone's an organ donor. That's all. You will have an event where it's like a woman is upset about her husband dying, and you can choose to make an exception for him. Or you can say, I did what I had to do. So it's I didn't want to go full authoritarian, but you just had to make some hard decisions sometimes because you don't bury the bodies. You can, like I said, you can use them for organ transplant stuff that make people heal faster.
Ah.
So, yeah, if you're having trouble with the medical bottleneck, that can help a lot.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
Gotcha. Well, that is it for Thoughts on Frostpunk. I'm glad, Manticore, thanks for picking me up on such short notice and talking with me about it.
I do have one more thing that I think would be an interesting discussion if
sure.
you'll humor me. So the name of this game is Frostpunk. Obviously, this comes from the steampunk aesthetic of this game. Is this punk at all?
You know, I'll make the case for it being punk.
All right,
but it's loose. Okay, I'm not gonna say it's good, but I'm gonna bullshit you. So I'm actually a big punk fan. Punk is one of my favorite subcultures. The music, like 70s punk, is my favorite genre of music. The aesthetic is great. I love it. Punk is often about fighting against power structure, even if that power structure is almost undefeatable. So I would argue that in this case, fighting for your life in the face of complete hopelessness is punk. And that is stretching that definition as far as it'll go.
That is very much. I had this whole idea of like, okay, so they take the steampunk aesthetic, but they miss the steampunk ideal. And then as I was looking into those steampunk ideals, like, well, actually, so steampunk is almost a thing that came out of cyberpunk, which definitely has the actual punk ideals attached to it. But steampunk kind of didn't necessarily pull those ideals.
No, language is getting...
agree. Steampunk is all aesthetic, no ideology or no heart to
not necessarily it's not necessarily no ideology. It's just not going to come with it for free like you get with cyberpunk.
Yeah, there tends to be not that there aren't you can't do dystopian steampunk, but a lot of it has whimsy.
Yes, steampunk itself tends to be a pretty whimsical aesthetic. And you can have it, like there are plenty of punk, steampunk shows and movies.
I want a dwarf with big goggles on that are like made out of brass and a Ramones t-shirt.
Does he have a twirly mustache?
Absolutely he does.
So what you're saying is you want red.
Well, he doesn't have a Ramones t-shirt, so.
Yeah, we can
fix that.
But no,
I do like your idea there of it is punk because the punk thing that they're fighting against is nature that probably was caused by us or them.
Yeah. Once you go full theocracy or authoritarian, I think that loses the plot a little bit on the punk angle.
A little bit.
I think what we might also be dealing with is just a symptom of how language evolves.
I definitely agree. In the steampunk era, the punk definitely takes a back seat to the steam.
The punk is there now to signify that it is a world build that you're attaching the first half of the word to.
Right.
I saw an interesting one which was talking about neo-Victorianism in that kind of retro-futuristic thing that is actually steampunk. And I kind of like neo-Victorian more than steampunk.
Yeah, I like that term a lot because it also doesn't necessarily, like, I don't know, I think it represents the vibe better.
Yeah. Also, steam is like totally a super important power, but it's really coal. It's coal. Coal punk.
You're absolutely right. Because, yeah, what's powering these steam engines? It's coal, baby.
You don't have to make steam with coal to use it. That was one of the things that kind of frustrated me in the game. I was like, dude, just burn the coal. Stop worrying about the steam. Make fire.
And that's why Frostpunk developer Joe Manchin. That was my joke.
We had Manticore as a segment for us.
I do.
Yeah,
I do
I'm
have
excited
a
to hear
thing.
about this.
Yeah. As you all know, Professor Dude, Dr. Professor Dude, likes to go into depth on legal matters and explain it to the long miasma that is the couch dimension. But would it surprise you to know you can do that for software development too? There's entire fields of software development landscape that are kind of focused around research and making that research as dull as it possibly making that research as dull as it could possibly be, right? So
sorry.
You've just got entire fields, entire disciplines within software development focused on research and making that kind of as dull as you possibly can. You've got your smarty pants in their labs. They're wearing their little lab coats and they're, designing and testing algorithms. They've got beakers for some reason, but they're just full of Monster Energy and ADHD meds. And you've also got the data analysis, the user experience researchers, and sometimes software developers writing and actually doing research and creating these kind of white papers. So what are they publishing? Or are they publishing that? Sometimes it comes out as a white paper, but usually companies tend to keep these to themselves. But sometimes you get a really neat little thing. Previously when I was on the show, I mentioned that I played me some World of Warcraft. And I do love WoW. It's a comfort game. I'm going to be playing it until the servers shut down. But I don't really like Activision Blizzard. They have a pretty bad track record lately. It seems that things are getting better. They recently formed a World of Warcraft Game Makers Guild, which is a nice looking union. It looks like a pretty good improvement.
Nice.
But it's still Activision Blizzard. They still got some shitty stuff going on. I do want to tip my hat to them, though. They have been publishing a bunch of papers in the past few months, and then beyond that, they seem to have a pretty active research and development department. And I ran across this one that's pretty interesting. The paper's titled Matchmaking Series, The Role of Skill in Matchmaking. And it's a white paper, and it's kind of dense. It spends several pages kind of explaining the basic terms that you and I have all internalized, what is ping, what is a lobby, what is skill.
What's that KD, baby?
Exactly, stuff like that. But then it kind of goes into detail of how do you attach that numerical value to skill, and what does that do, and why do you want to do that? The paper doesn't spell out the formulas on how they calculate MMR or skill-based ranking, but it does kind of go through the logical steps of how they do that and how they use those rankings and other people's rankings to create reasonably fair matches for you. And basically what they did for this is they did this thing called A/B testing. It's kind of like testing a placebo. You give one user's one set of things, another user's another set of things, see which ones retain or whatever you're trying to track. They were tracking are players coming back to the game after game, how long are players sitting in queues, things like that. Tested this, one kind of lightening up the skill-based matchmaking, and another one keeping it more or less as it is, and found that basically even if a queue was longer, if it took you longer to find your match, as long as you were getting a reasonably fair match, one that felt like a challenge to a degree, but also not an unwinnable challenge, people kept on coming back.
Yep.
The paper's pretty dense. It's not the hardest thing to read, but it's not poolside reading. But if you're ever interested in building your own game with its own matchmaking system, it's definitely worth a read. I just think it's kind of neat to see how a company takes these kind of skill, this ambiguous thing, and turns it into an actual MMR system.
Bungie.
Yeah, go ahead. No. I was about to ask questions, so go for it.
Bungie has, before, when talking about their PvP mode, Crucible, or the Crucible in Destiny, they've, like, I know before their latest expansion, the Final Shape, they had posted, they'll do weekly posts. Now used to be this week at Bungie, now it's this week in Destiny. And they recently broke down, like, how they did matchmaking, and skill-based stuff, how they wanted to change it moving forward. Got real in the weeds, and it was really interesting. I always like when a company gets really transparent about how they kind of approach that stuff. And I'm going to be real with you. I have always leaned towards, I like skill-based matchmaking. It is always, unfortunately, I've not been too dissuaded from the argument that most of the people who get really, really upset about skill-based matchmaking are the people who just want to crush other players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think that's what's really interesting about this paper. And I know that Manticore, and I don't spend a lot of time in these spaces, but in really competitive spaces, my understanding is that you don't spend a lot of time there, right? Like, neither of us really spend a lot of time in sweaty Call of Duty lobbies. But I have friends that do, and that is one of the biggest things I hear from them all the time, is constant bitching and moaning and complaining about skill-based matchmaking. Oh, why do they have to make skill-based matchmaking? It used to be so much better without it. And that is objectively false. Getting rid of skill-based matchmaking is one of those dog shit ideas that anyone has ever had. And these people think, oh, I would love it so much if there was no skill-based matchmaking. But I guarantee you that a solid 95% of the people that complain about this, if you took it away, they would be infuriated constantly.
Oh yeah, there's this thing. If you play a lot of online games, of the people who are complaining about the games are not the people playing the games.
Yeah,
if you're going on a Reddit and talking shit about
that. I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's a genuine problem in the Destiny community. That exact mentality I've seen point out of, there's a game mode called Gambit, and there are people who enjoy Gambit, but it became a meme that everyone hates it. And Bungie one time released the numbers, and it's one of the most popular modes, and someone pointed out, yeah, because the people who are playing it aren't going and talking on Reddit. They're not complaining on Reddit.
Exactly. And kind of where I was going to get to that, though, was like, if you've got some people who feel like, oh man, I just want to get rid of skill-based matchmaking, the reason they want to get rid of it is because they would absolutely crush the average player. They are now above average, but they're not yet good.
Yes.
They're just above average.
I think
absolutely. And when, Destiny, to go back to that example, there is a mode that I believe they're implementing skill-based for it, but it's called Trials of Osiris. And Trials doesn't have skill-based matchmaking. And the whole point is that you're trying to win 7 matches in a row without losing. And it is one of the most miserable gaming experiences of my fucking life.
To be fair, we did have a mutual friend there who turned his griping up to max.
Yeah, and he's the guy that hates skill-based matchmaking, but I think is hilarious.
Because every time we'd lose, he'd say, "Are you having fun yet? Are you having fun? Are you having a good time?" It's, shut the fuck up. I'm just... You just fucking twist that knife.
And yeah, of course he's like, and every time I'm getting crushed. And like, yeah, of course you're getting crushed. There's no skill-based matchmaking on. And that's the thing, though, too, is that I do think that it benefits even the sweats. Because even if you are super sweaty and you are that far above average, I think after like 2 or 3 games of just crushing everyone, you'd get bored and turn it off.
Exactly. And also, because you're crushing everybody, those, quite frankly, the players who are actually supporting the game, the plurality of people, are going to get disappointed and leave as well. And so you're not going to have... queues are going to get longer, and then you're going to get put against even better players.
And that's how you get Apex Legends.
Oh, yeah.
I think currently the Destiny solution, by the way, is I think competitive has skill based, but they may have turned it off or at least turned it down for free or for casual play.
And I think that's pretty reasonable, especially if you're like, if we turn it off for casual, we can get you into a match, or we lighten it for casual, we can get you into a match faster, but it's going to be wild, wild west in what you actually get. But once you get into actual ranked gameplay, I mean, that's the entire point of having a rank, right? Is so that you play against people who are similarly ranked.
Yeah, a lot of people, I think, I try to, I really liked ranked gameplay. And I have a lot of friends give me pushback on that. Oh, I don't feel like doing that right now. I just want to do some casual. It's like, well, I want to do ranked because we're going to get our ass beat less in ranked, actually. Like, because then it's going to be adjusting for my rank. But yeah, a lot of people, I think, are intimidated by the name. And they think, it's going to put all this extra pressure on me because, oh, this one's graded.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And some people align, I'd say, or they get really fixated on their rank. So it's like, oh no, it can never go down. And it's an indication of how you're doing. If it goes down, then you'll probably be fighting people you're more aligned with. You'll work your way up as you get better.
That's why right now this podcast is at a Plat 5, and I swear to fucking God, if someone leaves a negative review and we get downgraded to a Gold 1, I'm gonna be pretty pissed off.
Well, so for the ranked stuff in like World of Warcraft, there are add-ons and mods that you can use to actually hide your rank from you, so that you don't start thinking in that way. You're just playing.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
because there's always like. Calorino was in the chat earlier talking about Hunt Showdown. Hunt Showdown rank is like very important simply because it's not even I want to be lower MMR in Hunt Showdown because the moment I go from 3 to 4, the heat kicks on. But I do love that idea of like hiding it even from myself because they have a mode where, you can hide your MMR from other players. And I guess you could choose just to not look at it, but I mean, come on.
No, right can there. You? It's there on purpose. Like, hey, remember the user experience researchers I mentioned? They're doing the thing to say, let's show you your freaking MMR.
Right.
I have one last thing I want to do before we end the podcast. It's going to be short, but it does involve Hunt Showdown. Not to rush too far ahead. I just
go for it.
No. So final segment is, do y'all have anything you're looking forward to in the next month? I kind of want to start ending these episodes with that since they conclude the previous month, or
Yeah.
They come at the end of the month. Why not see, looking forward to the next month, what you're looking forward to? And I wanted to ask Tiny, are you excited about Hunt Showdown?
Oh, yeah. The Hunt Showdown relaunch.
It's 15th of August. I looked it up.
Yes, August 15. And the new engine looks great. The new map looks awesome. It is a mountain forest map.
Leaving the swamp.
So, yeah, we're leaving the swamp and we're going to Colorado.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen any of the promotional stuff about that, Captain, take a look at it. It might pique your interest.
I will.
I've tried to make you play Hunt several times, and like most people that play Hunt, you said, I'm good.
I need to play more of it. I enjoy playing it with you. It's just, it's a game either I need to be in the mood, or it's, well, you've been playing stuff I want to play. I'm going to jump into this, which I want to do more of because you've been giving... Last few times we played stuff, you've been giving a lot of time to Destiny, so...
It's got a pretty steep learning curve that has made it tough for me. I also just don't play FPSs that much.
It does have a steep learning curve. I'm excited. They're putting bullet drop in the game. And bullet drop is a feature that I haven't seen really well implemented since the days of Battlefield 3, maybe? And so Bad Company 2 had really big bullet drop. And I like bullet drop because it makes it harder for people to snipe you from across the map.
So I vaguely remember you being a fucking fucking fiend with a sniper rifle, despite the
That's
bullet
part of
drop.
why I like it too, is because you get a feel for something, and you can't put your finger on why you know where to shoot.
Yeah,
You know where to shoot.
It's just experience.
Yeah, and so it gives the guns like a really good feel to them that I love. So I'm excited for that to be coming to the game for several reasons. But then I'm also excited about, I believe that August is Frostpunk 2, isn't that right?
Yep, it is.
Yeah, so I'm excited for that as well.
I wanted to ask if there's any significance to the new subtitle. Was it 1896 or something?
Yeah, I think it's moving forward a little bit in time.
Okay.
And that's also because this is a full relaunch. So this is basically Hunt 2. It is Hunt for next gen consoles.
Interesting. See,
Yeah.
I was curious if you think that even with the name Hunt Showdown, I've always been curious if they would ever make other games in the Hunt universe.
It would be cool, but I think that Crytek doesn't have that many folks working there.
Yeah, the Crytek is always, unless I could just be wrong, but it seems like they're like a one game at a time kind of company, which is fine.
They used to be like back in the Crisis days. I feel like they used to be a lot bigger.
Yeah.
I mean, a bunch of their developers were in Ukraine and have been displaced because of that.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That sucks. Well, now I am, we're going to, politicize this podcast. I need as much aid to Ukraine as possible so that I can get more games from Crytek.
And just to add a little bit more of a downer vibe, at least on Steam, because I bought Frostpunk 1 earlier this week or whenever you told me about it. It looks like Frostpunk 2's release date is September 20th.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wasn't quite sure.
Damn. Yeah, I knew it got delayed because it was supposed to be July. And then the Couch Dimension Curse got it.
Well, we shouldn't have mentioned that. I'm sorry I said an actual date.
Wait, did you say September 20th?
Yes.
Yeah. I've got, I believe, another thing coming out that day. See, the thing is, when I came up with the segment, I was looking forward to some things, but they're coming out later than expected, which is the Factorio Space Age update, and Satisfactory 1.0. Satisfactory, I think, is also September 20th. So,
hey, well, if you're looking for something this month, the World of Warcraft expansion, The War Within, launches in August, I think, 26th. So, just get into that. you just get into it. It's fine. There's not 20 years of context.
So accessible.
Our friend of the show, Flame Wiz, has been wanting me to play that.
I love it and would love to have a group of people to play with, but at the same time, I don't want to do that to anybody.
I feel that because, well, I feel less reluctance about doing it to people, but I always want a consistent raid group, or I want a better raid group on Destiny, and it's tough to get people in because it's like, I had to explain some mechanics to you.
Yeah, no, Captain will conscript your ass.
So, Manticore, ever played Destiny 2? But before we end the show, I want to go ahead and announce our listener voted Game of the Month for August.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you remembered because I was about to end the show without saying it.
All good. The game will be Hitman World of Assassination. Now, if you want to go buy the game in full, that is going to cost more than where we usually set our limit. However, if I remember correctly, you can just download the game for free, and there's a rotating... the locations and missions rotate between the paid content for free, so you can still engage with it. Moreover, if you already had the previous Hitman games, I believe you can just go ahead and import that content right in.
Cool.
So, with the newer mechanics being in the world, so you can experience the game in a number of ways without dropping a ton of money.
I am looking forward to checking that one out.
Yep, but I'm also going to continue Frostpunk. I want to...
Same.
I want to make more headway out there.
And do the other scenarios that come with the game are pretty fun. Once you beat that main one, though, nothing else is really going to be that much of a challenge for you. That's definitely where the challenge is.
That's what I'm wondering with the DLC I got, how that'll be.
Yeah, and shit, I might end up picking up the DLC. I don't know. I was
if
going
anything, pick it up on Game Pass. You'll get it with a discount.
Yeah. Because I Game Pass will give me a discount on it.
Yep.
Well, big thanks, Grumpy Manticore, for coming on and for prepping a little content for us. Without Red, it is, we're lost. But we have found you. We have sought you out. We are.
I feel pretty found. I'm on the couch. I'm doing okay. There's not a whole lot. I haven't delved in the cushions.
Just talked right over my Sunseekers callback.
Oh, fuck, I'm sorry. I didn't know where you're going.
But that's our show, everybody. Thanks for listening. For those listening live, go ahead and hit that follow button on Twitch. For those that want to be listening live, you can catch Couch Dimension every Tuesday at 5:15 p.m. CDT. Captain, where can fans find our edited replays?
You can find them over on YouTube at Tiny Big Dude. We have the replays and exclusive content that you won't get just from listening to the audio version. However, and I don't actually know how we're doing this without Red, we might want to discuss...
I got this part. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, can you tell us about those audio options?
Yeah, that's not all. We also have audio-only options. You can find us on podcast platforms, Apple, Amazon, and Spotify by searching for Couch Dimension. If you're a podcast listener, please subscribe to the show so it can be downloaded to your device every week. And don't forget to rate and review to let us know how we're doing. But only if you think we're doing at least a Diamond 5 job. We'll be back next week with another great show because we are trapped here by a wizard.